Greetings, and welcome to a brand new episode of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Cril. We are back for another Friday episode. Man, I feel like Friday, I feel like it's been a while since I put out an episode, but you know what? The episode that y'all caught last week, I actually did that a week before. So that's why I feel like that. But again, man, we got a brand new special episode for you all today. This is actually Out the Box Talks episode 79, and I'm so excited to be talking to our guest today. Before we introduce our guest, I do want to, make some announcements with Out the Box. Our usual announcements, for people who are just tuning in, to make sure y'all go check out our website, outtheboxmedia.com, so you can get access to the plethora of interviews that we have with hip hop and soul artists going all the way back to 2009. Everything is on that website, whether it's via our TV show on Out the Box TV, on YouTube, or on Vimeo, or our podcasts, right, which are available on platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast. Wherever you generally listen to podcasts, our episodes are there, and we have so much for you to check out. The other thing is we have some merch. We have our merch store, outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com, where you can get items like this baseball tee that I have, as well as like snapback hats. And I just put up some new items that are specifically focused on the podcast. So we got some Out the Box Talks merch. So we got a hat up there. We got a t-shirt up there. We even got a coffee mug of Out the Box Talks that you guys can purchase as well. Also, if you would like to donate to the platform, you can donate via PayPal at paypal.me/outtheboxmedia. Don't worry, these links will be in the description of this interview. So if you're checking the interview out on YouTube or on our audio podcast, they'll be in the descriptions as well. You can also donate via Cash App, which is you can just send to # Out the Box Rep via Cash App as well. So whichever works for you, PayPal or Cash App. The donations mean a lot, so whatever you can donate, it definitely helps to support the platform. And then always remember, you can catch our shows again on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. We have the interviews via YouTube, but if you want to catch the high quality audio, it's also via the audio podcast on those platforms. All right. So I think that's it in terms of plugging some of our links. Remember, you could go to the website Out the Box Media and subscribe for free there, just so you could be updated with all the new episodes. And also remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel Out the Box TV and hit that notification bell so that you know when a new episode comes out. So as I said, we have another special guest on the show today. Today we actually are featuring two artists who have collaborated a number of times together, and we're going to talk about their new collaboration today. They are actually have been doing music for quite some time. One is a producer, DJ, and multi-instrumentalist. He's hailing from DC, and he's also a part of a hip-hop group called Y Society with Insight. We had Insight on the show a few weeks back with Ed OG. He goes by the name Insight Innovates now. And the other one is an Emcee who is also part of another hip-hop group called Panacea, and he's a native of Philadelphia. And I mean, these two brothers go back, man. They've put out a lot of music, throughout the years on Redefinition Records, and just been doing their thing as far as hip-hop is concerned, man. So again, like I'm really excited to talk to them today. Their latest project is called Big Tiny Planet. It's an EP. It was released not too long ago in the month of June, and last year they put out the Ocean Bridges project with Archie Shepp, and also the Moment of Change album in April of last year. And some years back, they put out a project together called The Reflecting Sea, Welcome to a New Philosophy. So we're going to talk about their recent releases today and just get the listeners and viewers out there to know a little bit about these two brothers. So without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box Talks listening and viewing audience, two brothers hailing from one from DC and one native of Philadelphia. Want to welcome to our show brothers Raw Poetic and Damu The Fudgemunk. Welcome to Out the Box.
Waving to the people. That was nice intro.
Everybody, peace.
Welcome, man. Glad to have you all here on the platform. Like I said, man, I want to talk to y'all about this new project, Big Tiny Planet, that's out, which, you know, is an EP, but it's not like a short EP, right? Like there's a lot of you know, there's a strong duration on the project. But before we do that, I do want to give you guys a chance to give the listeners and the viewers out there that may not know who you are just a brief history of, you know, your, I would say like your biggest or most prominent contributions to music up to this point. Okay. So you can introduce yourself and then just go in.
All right. I'll start. I'm Raw Poetic. Like he said, originally from Philadelphia, but I'm from Virginia. That's why I represent the DMV area. And doing music a long time. Started with my band RPM. That's how me and Damu met. You know, transitioning to Panacea. And then once that was done, I moved on to just Raw Poetic, and I do stuff with Damu The Fudgemunk.
Go ahead, Damu.
Yeah, Damu The Fudgemunk. Yes, originally from Washington, D.C. Been doing music a couple decades now, and make beats, DJ, and produce and so forth. Just love music, and I came in the game about 2005, 2006 as a member of Panacea and Wise Society with Insight Innovates, and then myself and Raw Poetic have actually been friends and working together for about 20 years now. So yeah, it's just great to be here, and a lot of records later, and here we are.
Wow, man, 20 years. That's a long time, man.
Long time. Yeah.
You know, I think I heard about you first, Damu, around the time when the first Wise Society album came out. The name is Escape. No, Travel at Your Own Pace.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just remember how sought after that project was, man, and just remember seeing you like coming out to New York, and doing certain showcases and just displaying your talents as a producer, man. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you on the platform, as well as yourself, Raw Poetic, because I've been watching and hearing about you for a while now. So it's funny how all these years I've been doing this, and I finally get a chance to kind of connect with y'all in this interview form. So it's a pleasure, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
For sure.
Dope. So for those that may not know, can you kind of express how you two came together musically to collaborate? Like what made y'all serious about working together?
Well, I mean, I guess it was just kind of proximity. We had a mutual friend or a few mutual friends, and you know, at the time, I guess people that made music or music creation wasn't necessarily looked at as a consumer product the way that it is now, you know, where you buy an iPhone, you buy a laptop, you know, there's music software, there's DJ apps and things where you can record yourself, edit, you know, which is great. You know, it's definitely enabled so many people to discover their creative passions. But back then, people that did hip hop or people that were creative were kind of isolated just because of, you know, the time. So we had a friend. I was an intern at a radio station. Our good friend KB, he knew that I did music, and he said, "Man, you got to meet my homie. You know, Raw Poetic. He's in a group called RPM." And then the thing was, he heard a beat that I made that used one of the samples that they use. He's like, "Oh man, now you definitely got to meet him." So then I hopped the train. Raw Poetic was in college at the time, so I had gone out to where he was going to school and hung out with them the whole night at the rehearsal. And then before you know it, We just started crossing paths at events and shows, and then before you know it, I joined his band as a DJ, and then eventually Panacea came together through our good friend K Murdoch, and stayed a DJ there, and then so so on. We just pretty much stuck together. Everybody kind of went their separate ways, and then Raw Poetic and I really got closer and more creative, and just the chemistry and the bond just grew.
Dope, man. It is dope to see like you guys come together for back in the days, and then kind of like stick together to this point. Like, what has enabled y'all to kind of just maintain that relationship and continue to work together?
I think it was just a long process of it. I mean, like Damu explained that's exactly how I remember. We were in Fairfax, Virginia, and it was several years that we were in the same vicinity, rolled with the same crews and everything, but we didn't make music together. And then once, we started making music together with RPM and stuff and Panacea, then it was still another break in between that. And then we got together. We did Hold Up like 2 years before it even came out. Like we started doing a few songs together. He was doing this thing. And at the time I was just more focused on just like playing instruments, trying to learn the instruments and everything better. And so once it came out, I mean, I think there was just a level of excitement because we both, knew we liked to record, and we had a lot of chemistry at that point. So once we started, it was kind of like elevated,
Dope. Now, Damu, as I understand, you are also co-owner of Redefinition Records. Am I right in that?
I did have some involvement with that business, and and as of right now, I'm pretty much just Damu The Fudgemunk.
Got it. Because I remember that label being like, when Bandcamp started, like, people started checking for Bandcamp, like that label and like one other independent label was like the two labels that were putting out a lot of releases through Bandcamp, and Redefinition kind of like, claim their stamp as far as like vinyl and cassettes and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about what your involvement was with Redefinition and kind of what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, originally it was a company that it started back in maybe 2006, 2007, and then I met with the founder, and we had some like interest, and he had some interest in what I was doing, and then pretty much, it was a matter of trying to shop music to get to another label, and then eventually it just, I guess, evolved into an infrastructure to release records. And initially it was just for me, and then within a few years it was like, hey, this is working. Look, why not expand and experiment with some other things? So just a passion for physical products, going in record stores, just an aesthetic and so forth. And I guess it's about 14, 15 years later. And yeah, as of right now, just, the label still exists. And I guess I've been doing more of my own thing as of late.
Got it. No doubt. I appreciate that, man. I just wanted to ask about it because I've seen so much work with you throughout the years on that label. So let's talk about this project that y'all released last year called Moment of Change, right? Like, talk to me about why y'all decided to go with this title.
That was all Raw Poetic.
I think at the time, I got to think back. We were I think the whole world was at a moment of change. You know what I mean? There was a lot going on. That was 2020, right? COVID was happening. And then I think it was just a moment of change for us. I mean, we were getting ready to put out Ocean Bridges, which was a pretty diverse album for us. And Moment of Change was like almost like a good callback to what people know us for doing, like just straight underground hip hop. Was guerrilla style, like I said. Like I didn't even normally I type the lyrics and put them on the record. That one I didn't do it. You know what I mean? I just wrote the joints, and Damu mixed and made the beats, and like we put it out. So it was a nice raw album. And then it was just like I listened to the songs today, and it was almost like talking about the transitions that you go through in life. A lot of the songs, you know, Chandelier, you know what I mean, Helio, like a lot of the songs are just talking about like, you know, your average things you go through, but that which makes the change in who you are at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So it was a lot. It was a lot in it. You know, it was timely.
So it had to. It was reflecting kind of the times that what we were going through.
Oh yeah, most def. I mean, it was you know, 2020 is the whole world has been different. I was just talking. I went hiking with my guitarist earlier, my guitarist Pat. I went hiking and we were just talking about how much has changed from last year to now, and we're still getting used to going back out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I don't go out much. You know, I don't see anybody that much. You know, a lot of times when I talk to Damu, we talk through the phone. You know what I mean? But like that's how I talk to my closest friends these days, just on the phone. But I don't see them that much. So it was like that moment of change. Everything changed since then. I'm trying to get back to normal now to this point. You know?
Right. Understood. So now Damu, as I understand, you did pretty much all of the production on Moment of Change. Is that correct? Or
I mean, I guess the traditional production, you
traditional,
know,
right.
finding the samples and the interludes and that kind of thing. But generally, both of us produce the albums.
Yeah, understand. That's what I mean, like the traditional production.
Yeah,
Now
all the sequencing and so. But yeah, Raw Poetic actually did some of the arrange because more recently, because our chemistry is so good and because of the way we record, I'll just send him a loop. Well, I'll just send him a beat, and then I let him arrange that the way he wants to do. So I let him do a lot of that. With Chandelier, that one's more layered and more like, out of Chandelier, Nappy Heads, those have a lot more textures and arrangements and things that really need be a little bit more delicate. But a lot of that stuff, Raw Poetic had a hand in. So
dope. Yeah, because I was gonna ask you, like, with the instrumentals on the album, like they have a medium range of sounds. Like some sounds are like very funky, upbeat, and some are laid back. Like, what types of sounds did you draw from, or were you inspired from to create? You know, so, and I guess this is either one of you can answer this question. But
well, go on.
No, but to come up with the overall, instrumentals on this album.
Well, I guess the origins, not to say not to create any more suspense, but Raw Poetic and I have about 10 albums, that we still have yet to put out. So
Wow.
I think it was around it might have been maybe around September. Yeah, maybe about late August. No, you know what? It was August 2019, and I just made about 40 beats, just back to back to back to back, and then pretty much just sent demos to Raw Poetic, and then just said, hey, just make records out of these. So pretty much I was just going through, just trying to strip down, because I'm a very, I guess I'm always trying to be Beethoven. I mean, and I mean that in the sense of overthinking things, like. So when you listen to the stuff on Moment of Change, I mean, it's stripped down. There's a lot more loops. I went back to how I made beats, or how beats were made 20 something years ago. And also, I mean, there's a big minimalist movement in a lot of the underground hip hop, or just indie rap as a late, or better yet, sample based rap, where things are stripped down, and some producers have really, been the poster children for that sound. So it was more so like me to not overthink things and say, okay, hey, I just found some drums, or hey, you know what, I'm gonna loop something well known, some drums that people might know, and then just try to make songs, good grooves, and then I left it up to Raw Poetic to really embellish on the basic ideas. So a lot of the beat selection was all Raw Poetic.
Wow. You raise an interesting point about the minimalist production. Like, I wonder how difficult has that been for you, being that your approach hasn't been that? Like, how has that been for you to strip things down, production wise?
I mean, it's on one hand, it's definitely reverse engineering. I appreciate being able to do both and appreciate both. I think you know, at one time I could have been a snob about stuff like, man, you know, things are changing, you know, why I work so hard, or hey, this person works hard, or this person. But really, I had to look at it from a sense of you know, the music and the creativity of it is more so, it's all about the emotion and not necessarily. And I got so wrapped up in the technicality, you know, behind stuff. Like, okay, hey, you know, I got to chop this and do this and spin and this. I'm gonna take this and that, which I still love doing. But you know, there's that side where I got so into the technical aspect that I'm no longer really connected to what people actually feel when they hear things. I'm thinking about how it's being deconstructed. So you know, to strip things down it's been, I guess it's been a, you know, freeing, you know, for me. But then part of me also realizes that, hey, we're musicians. It's a very competitive market. People can create and publish and produce a lot faster than they could 10 years ago, 15, 20, and so forth. So, you know, to spend time as much as I enjoyed and being delicate with my ideas, I guess, to strip things down and be able to publish things at a rapid rate in comparison to your peers and your contemporaries, that's what needs to be done in order to have some presence. So,
do you find it easier stripping it down, or is it easier to do it the way that you do it with the layered approach?
Right now, it's, I guess at this point, it's probably 50-50. But I think at that time I was driven. I actually had a purpose. I actually said, you know what, let me not overthink things and let me accumulate versus perfect, you know. So at the time when I did a lot of those beats, it was more so, hey, okay, wow, I got 10 beats and I didn't overthink things. Let me go to 20, let me go to 30. So, and really I just wanted to put the beats in his hands so he could, because he works extremely fast. And I don't think a lot of people, we've never really spoken about it, but the difference between he and I, it's like there are things that he likes to take his time with, but between the both of us, I don't mind spending a month on something where he'll do a song in 30 minutes, and I'm not kidding. He'll write the song, record the song. I could send him a beat, and I have a mixed, arranged song in like 2-3 hours, and then he'll go about his business and do something completely different. Then I send him another beat, he'll do it again. So I got to be able to keep up with him. So I have to strip some things down or modify my process with something that makes me feel proud of, okay, I'm at the machine. I'm trying to be at my best here, but let me not stop the train, you know?
Well said, man. I could definitely dig it. Now, I want to talk about one of the first tracks on this album, Moment of Change. One of the first tracks is actually named after, it's called George the Animal, named after the professional wrestler of the 70s and 80s, right? That era. What inspired y'all to name the track after him?
That beat was so wild. The beat was so wild, and I heard it. I grew up watching a lot of wrestling because my older brothers were really into it. My older brother John, shout out to John, he is super into it, even to this day. And so I was like, I want to give this a title that's going to make him laugh when he hears it. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I kind of came in. Damu had this wild intro. I don't even know what was going on at the beginning, but once the beat dropped, it has this guy's voice that's going like, ooh, and he's doing something. And I'm just like, that's George the Animal still, dude. Like, that dude was wild. He bite the turntable. Bite the turnbuckle, chase Miss Elizabeth around the ring and stuff. So I was just like, let me just do this crazy song where I kind of wild out with the rhymes, you know, my old school rapid fire style I get from Philadelphia, you know what I mean? Like, I could just dive into that. And yeah, it was just like, I don't know, for some reason, homage to George the Animal still. And yeah, it was just a real fun hop off the turntable, hop off the turnbuckle type of rap, you know what I mean? And go off for a minute.
Yeah, man. I noticed that like your rhymes and your flow is like really like upbeat, and you're kind of like almost sounds like you're scatting, over the beat in rhyme form, like in rap form.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty like upbeat way to start the project. And I noticed that, like apparently once that track comes on.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy
Yeah.
in that. I like that,
Yep. What's interesting about a lot of the songs on Moment of Change, as you guys can notice, I'm talking about Moment of Change first, is that there's an interlude at the beginning and sometimes at the end of most of the tracks where you hear a guy like, very briefly talking about going back to a particular time, a time of the classics, remembering a certain era. And the interludes, sound like they're excerpts from like an old television show or whatever. What was your purpose for including these interludes, at the beginning, at the end of some of these tracks?
That was, I guess, Raw Poetic came up with all the names and most of the concepts. Well, yeah, all the concepts for the beats. But yeah, it's when I get the tracks back, it's my job to do the sequencing, and that's the fun part, just to do the final production or executive production. So yeah, I guess most of the interludes are there just to kind of support the concept or the title of the album, the vibe of the album, segue, and so it just doesn't. It no longer sounds like a collection of songs. As short as it is, it sounds like a complete idea.
Right.
So a lot of those things, they're all sourced from records, and just combing for sounds, and I love digging for that kind of stuff, and like a lot of my I've probably gone overboard looking for so many different vocal clips, but they really come in handy because I'm more album oriented than single oriented. So yeah, I'm always proud when I find things that apply to what we're working on.
Got it. Do the interludes come together to tell sort of like a story? Because I know at the end, like it says something like the Paramount show is on the air now or something like that. Like, is there some type of sequence happening in terms of the subject matter in the interludes?
Oh yeah, most definitely. For the most part, I mean, sometimes it's just to break up, the rhythms or the textures in between the songs, depending on like you pointed out earlier, there's a lot of different textures on the album, but just in the beats and the rhythms. But sometimes, you put those clips in there, and it's either to, I guess, close out the idea from the previous song or introduce the next song. And for example, that clip about the Paramount, well, the last track, How to Fly, Raw Poetic's pretty much talking about his life as a superhero flying through the sky. So it needed something epic to set up that story. And since it's more of a an audio than visual, that introduction from an old classic radio program seemed fitting. And plus it mentions, if I'm correct, it does mention two and not one. So that's the both of us.
Nice.
I would say I write short stories and Damu turns them into movies. That's how I feel when I hear the album. Like now it's a film. Like he's a director. He's not just a producer, he's a director. So he does a lot of, I don't know, I'll give him an album, and when he gives it back, I'm like, that's way more than what I gave you, dude. Like and so that's part of the enjoyable factor for me,
Yeah, I wanted to ask y'all about that too, because that's definitely the vibe that I get with a lot of your music. It sounds very like cinematic, so that's dope that it turns out in that way. So one of the standout songs on the project is it Helio or Hello?
Helio.
Because I feel like on Bandcamp it says Hello, and then on streaming it says Helio.
It's supposed to be Helio.
Okay, Helio. Okay,
I'm looking at the book right now. I wrote Helio in the book, so.
Okay, cool. So yes, it's called Helio, and it details a story about a girl named Tamika, who your character, Raw Poetic, speaks about having a relationship with. I think you mentioned in the song "Gone with the Days That You Loved Her." Can you expound more on what's actually happening with this relationship in the song and what your character ultimately learns from this experience with Tamika?
Tamika is a mix of probably every girl I liked. It never worked out. I'm still single. But it's a mixture of every girl I liked. Tamika was the first girl I had a crush on in second grade in Philadelphia at a school called Lotus Academy. I don't know where she is today, but I know she had the baby. It was like classic black girl. She had all the baby hair tacked to her forehead and everything. So the concept of the song was like, what if I met Tamika today? With all the luggage that you get from over the years, from dating different people and everything. You know what I mean? And like in the story, she's still innocent because I knew her from second grade. So I'm thinking of like, well, we're both whatever age we are now, you know what I mean? And all I know is my own corruption. So I'm taking her out to church and everything else. I'm like, yo, come go hiking and, you know, do all the, you know, stuff that people do in their 20s and 30s, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, and I'm just kind of comparing it to, like I said, girls I've met over the year without, you know, any disrespect, but just like, you know, it's, you know, this is life in the city. This is life in the suburbs. Like this is, you know, these are the different experiences we go through. And so, you know, it was just a big imaginative story, you know, of almost looking at your innocence, you know, and it meeting your presence and how they would work out together.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's one of the standout tracks for me because it reminds me of like I forget what Tribe Called Quest record it is. It might be Bonita Applebum, but it has that kind of like, you know, that feel to it, that vibe to it.
I feel you. I get a Native Tongues feel from it, too. And it was definitely like, I mean, even the style used in it was very Q-Tip influence. You know, bumped into Tamika. She's a good freak of 5'7". You know what I mean? You just kind of got that Q-Tip old school bounce from like what is it, Instinctive Travels. You know what I mean? So yeah, it definitely has a callback to that. Yeah.
Dope. So the majority of the songs on the album are over 3 minutes long, and I spoke about the duration of the songs a little earlier. Like that's pretty long for a lot of hip hop music projects that I hear today, like track for track. Like there's a lot of projects, like you were talking about the minimal production, Damu. There's a lot of projects that got like 2 minute songs, like one after the next.
Nothing yet.
I noticed that a lot of your music is like, yo, I think you got a track on there that's like I don't know, maybe pushing like 8 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
How did the music on the album end up with those duration outcomes?
I mean,
you can take this away.
You know, so like again, that one makes, like I said, he makes movies, so he'll send me a piece and it'll just have so many different levels to it. Sometimes I want to attack every one, and when I'm writing, I don't really think about, all right, like how are we going to sell this? That never comes in my head when I'm writing it. I'm just like, all right, we're working on the story right here. I'm writing the script for this movie right here, and I start writing, and then sometimes it'll just kind of go along into something else, and I'm just like, then it becomes this ping pong game in my head. It was like, well, Jay, got to be catchy, man. They got to want to hear it if you're going to go this long, you know? And, you know, like we're not, I'll say this, I don't see us as people like, you're not going to hear us on the same station as the Baby and everything else. So I don't have to compete with those guys. No disrespect to them. They're doing their thing, but I don't have to compete with them. So I'm like, if I want to do, if the song's going to end up being 10 minutes, if that's what it takes, that's how long it takes to get across the story. Cool. Let's do it. Let's give. Sometimes I look at it like, oh, how long is your drive to work? 15 minutes. This song is 15 minutes. Put this on. You know, get the whole vibe, get the whole energy. But it's all about the story for me. Like if the story takes that long to tell, then that's just how it goes. You know, it's a new philosophy. You know, welcome to a new philosophy. It's a new philosophy on performing music. You know what I mean? When we get back out there, when we start doing shows, it will be a new approach to shows. You know, you're not going there for the 2-minute song no more. Now you're going there for the full experience of this one.
Yeah.
You're going to jam. So, you know.
I like how y'all just kind of take a very free-flowing approach, you know, and just kind of let it take you where it takes you. But I also appreciate the fact that you're giving us a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the song. And I know most songs are not like you rapping for like 8 minutes. It's like, you know, there's like, you know, maybe you singing throughout the song, or, you know, you letting the beat ride out, but it's pretty cool to see us still get like full projects with like full songs, you know. Um,
I think we just kind of groove in our own lane, you know.
yeah.
Everybody's invited, you know what I mean? But
Right.
Yeah.
It has like that free jazz kind of vibe too in
Yeah.
terms of the outcome. Yeah. So speaking of like song length, the track No Valentine is like over 8 minutes long. I think that was the track I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
In the majority of the song, you're singing or chanting a set of some words repeatedly that actually flow pretty well with the instrumental. But I gotta say, I cannot make out exactly what the words are. Can you tell us what you're actually singing on the track? Like I think the sound goes something like, "No walls in here at all." Hey,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. I could be butchering the words.
No, yeah, I knew it earlier. I was listening to it and I knew it, and I just forgot it again when you brought it up because all of that was improvised.
Wow.
So he just gave me the song, and I just started like. So if you peep it, it's about 5 bars, the whole song, and it's like an 8-minute song, but it's like 5 bars.
Okay.
And I keep saying it in a different way to show how I get over a relationship. And I just keep going over the same thing in my head. Why did this happen? But I'm saying it in different ways to show how I'm evolving my thought. So every time I say the bars, I say it a little bit different because I feel a little bit different every day that I'm getting over the relationship. And so then the hook, no something at all is what I'm saying, you know? Like no good at all or something like that. It's like it's not good for you. It's something like that I'm saying, like just chanting it to myself. So yeah, I just kind of improvised it, and yeah, it was just I don't know, it was just like a kind of a call out to really anybody who's going through a breakup. Like yeah, we go through this stuff in our head. Just it evaporates.
Got it.
Yeah.
You know, I had to ask you that, right? I mean, for a song to be almost 9 minutes long, I kind of want to know what you're saying over and over. Even though there's a part where you're actually, I think you're rapping like for a small part in the song. But yeah, it's just like, yeah. But thanks for the breakdown of what you meant.
Yeah, critical condition of relationship beatdown. You know what I mean? It's just, you just kind of beat yourself over the head with it. C'est la vie.
Dope. So I think Damu mentioned this song earlier too, Chandelier, which is track number 7. Like, why did you guys choose to title it Chandelier? Like how and what does this title Chandelier have to do with the lyrics in the song?
Oh, that was all raw poetic. I actually like when he first sent me the demo, I was thinking, man, this sounds like unpacking. And he said, that's exactly what we're gonna call it. and then when I got the session, it was like Chandelier. So we just left it as that. So he can further elaborate.
Okay. Yeah, tell me how'd you go from unpacking to Chandelier?
It's something about swinging from a chandelier I see in movies, and the chandelier always crashes and just kind of scattered chaos, You take like a beautiful shiny thing, and then it falls in the shattered chaos. And so at some points I'm talking about like I'm getting out of the whole relationship thing. And then I think kind of my anger of what was going on at the time. A lot of the Black Lives Matter movement was going on and everything. And it's just kind of like, it was kind of like when you look at a chandelier, it's very reflective on all sides you look, like with the windows and the mirrors that it has. So it's very reflective, and it's like just like seeing everything all at once in the chandelier, and it crashes and you see everything. So I just kind of try to attack everything at the splash, and I got on some basketball players in that. I felt bad, but then I was like, they don't know who I am. But yeah, because a lot of the basketball players at the time was like, yeah, we got to stand up for each other, but we got to do better ourselves. And I was like, that has nothing to do with what's going on out here. So Chandelier was it was kind of like an angry song for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's smooth, but I was angry.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it seems like that track you're kind of talking about like some of the things that's been happening socially and politically and stuff.
Yeah, man. It's very social, political angst in there. It talks about can't breathe and suffocation and stuff like that. And you know, it was, again, this album came out at the time. I think the album dropped around the time of Ahmaud Arbery. You know what I mean? And so it was a lot of stuff. Just, you know, as a person, I was just mad at a lot of stuff I was seeing. You know, and it's kind of like the things that my mother was a Panther, my father was. So it's the things that they talked about, and we're seeing it in real time. You know, and it's just, it was a lot of, again, it was just reflecting off of everything. There was just like a lot of anger being built up, and you know, Chandelier was just kind of looking at it through a beautiful view, but it's still messed up, you know.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking about that song, because that's actually my personal favorite from that record. I mean, it was that was the one where it was like, okay, I stripped everything down, but this one I'm not gonna do that on. So as I told him in advance, hey, this is the Damu one. You know.
Yeah.
So
No doubt. Yeah, man. There's like I said, the album, it has like a nice mixture of like some upbeat funky records, and then there's some like really laid back records, but there's a lot of emotions on the project as you kind of like experience it, you know, from beginning to end. Now, the last track, entitled How to Fly, is another standout song in my opinion. And it has a very optimistic vibe in terms of the sound. I noticed that there are like a few interesting beat change ups on the song that make it more intriguing and exciting. And I feel like some of the samples kind of remind me of or maybe it's the first sample, it kind of reminds me of like the stuff that Madlib did with Beat Conductor in India. Like you kind of hear those kinds of sounds. Can you talk about how you constructed this instrumental Damu for it to play out, you know, in the way that it did, kind of like the overall effect and the close out, to actually close out the album?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess as far as closing out the album, you know, I sit there and I listen to all the vibes. I, you know, play A, B, everything, C, D, you know, and so forth. And as I said originally, he had dozens of beats to choose from. So this is, and then the beats that weren't using this record ended up somewhere else. But these were the first songs that I got from that batch. So I'm hearing them. Okay, Raw Poetic chose this one. Oh, you like this one? We did this. Oh, we did a song to this one. So at that point, I'm narrowing everything down, and you know, with the opening song, George the Animal, you know, it's energetic, and it has that crazy intro, and then going from song track to track, it's just trying to balance everything out just as a listener. But I'm also, I saw it as a DJ, so I'm always just thinking about everything consistent and taking things on a journey, and just a fan of albums. So yeah, when it came to How to Fly, you know, it had like this triumphant, somewhat curious yet optimistic vibe to it, and also, you know, it opens on a very high note, but it can also close it can close on a high note, but it can also leave the listener wanting more. You know, like, oh man, you know, dang, the album's off. So that's pretty much the vibe I was going for as far as choosing that song last. And as far as, I guess, picking the samples, at the time I was just going through records, and it's funny, you know, you mentioned Madlib, and you know, like he's definitely one of the more prominent and one of the best that actually do more of, you know, the loops and, you know, minimalist stuff, and he's been doing it for years. So, you know, I guess sometimes hip hop can be very segregated, as in, like, you know, you have people that like this style of hip hop, they only want to hear quote unquote boom bap or jazzy this, or it's not hard enough, or it's not progressive enough, you know, it's too dirt, you know. So everybody's got that. So I think because I've created this, I guess, aesthetic or this sound that based on the catalog that people have heard to date, this was an opportunity, because I can make stripped down stuff and just use loops and just kind of let the samples breathe. You know, this was an opportunity to do that. And How to Fly was one of those records where I just, you know, I heard it. It was like, okay, I'm not going to add any drums. I'm just going to let Raw Poetic tell his story. And then whatever he gives back, I'll just produce around that with the sample, and then use some modern or more recent production techniques that seem to be working for some of the other acts, just to show, I guess, my audience, or better yet, try to expand and get some new listeners.
Yeah.
just moving in a different direction. So
Yeah, man. What I thought was dope about the track was like you can kind of see yourself experimenting with the minimalist production as well as the layered, like it's all happening on the same track. Like I think you start off with the first sample, and then I guess when Raw Poetic starts rhyming, then you strip it away and then you just hear like the bass line, and then you bring another vocal sample in, and it's just like cool. Like it gives you that feel that you get like when when you hear so many like songs where there's so many beat change ups, it makes you more excited about the song as you continue to listen. And I think that impression came to be with this particular track.
well, thank you. That's actually it's funny you point that out. Actually, I would say, I mean, I think everybody here is a big Wu-Tang fan. So those are some of the techniques that I picked up. Listening to RZA. You listen to Liquid Swords, and it's pretty much just stacking and layering things. And
Yeah.
From the filtering that happened in the late '80s to how that evolved, and then with engineers like Bob Power and so forth that really changed the sound of hip hop. That particular song, like I was just filtering samples and playing around with different frequencies just to make things sound more interesting, but also saying, okay, hey, I can take the bottom out. You're just gonna hear the transients and snares and the hi-hat, and then put the bass underneath. Or hey, the vocals are interesting. Let me try to accentuate those. Previously I would have said, I like this bass line, but I can find another bass line and put that underneath. So hey, I like these vocals. Let me filter those. Let me go find 50 other records. This one I really just said, you know what? It's done. It's a song, and I'm good with it.
Dope. So I wanted to like shift gears to talk a little bit about the project that you guys also released last year with legendary jazz artist, saxophonist Archie Shepp, who also happens to be your uncle, Raw Poetic. So the album is titled Ocean Bridges. With you guys music already being sort of like an instrumental hip hop sound in itself, and your uncle being an avant-garde jazz musician, how did y'all envision what y'all wanted this album to sound like coming together? Ocean Bridges.
I don't think it was really an envisioning thing. I think we a lot of that album is raw. It's we got in the studio, we got our guys. He was saying I remember he said to us, he's like, I could get one of my drummers, and we were talking. It was like, yeah, Damu plays drums. He's like, well, you play the drums then. It's just like, okay. Well, it was like, all right. So we brought our guys in. Some of my guys were even nervous to come in. Like, I can't play with Archie. I was like, man, just do what you do, like we always did back in the day, and just play the set. And like we went in there and we played it, and then I just had to kind of like pick out parts and arrange it and put my vocals on top, and I let Damu do the rest. And it was a very raw form album. I learned a lot from him from that, because that's what he does. You get in the studio and rock out,
Wow. Like, did he express to you what his experience was like being able to create with you all? Like, how did he feel about the creation process for this project?
I know he had a good time. I really liked all the musicians who were there. When I talked to him still, when he asked about everybody, he asked about everybody by name. He's an 84-year-old dude. He remembers everybody who was in the studio that day,
Wow.
And I know that, like, the one thing he stressed to me is like, I'm not really worried about my money, Jason, but make sure all the guys get paid. You gotta take care of you guys, And so it was like, I was like, yeah, I don't got you. I got you. Like, we'll take care of it, So he was just all about making sure everybody got taken care of. There's another Archie one coming one day too. It's nice. We did a lot of stuff, which
dope.
And that was totally different from this one. So you'll see when it comes out. But yeah.
Got it. Why do you think, and I know because I know you've been doing music for a long time, why do you think it's taken so long, or it's taking, I guess, this amount of time for that kind of project to materialize with him, like that collaboration?
Yeah, I think part of it is that, you know, my uncle's in Paris, you know, so
Right.
he lives out there, and when he comes back, he's in Massachusetts, and I don't really get up to Massachusetts very often. When the times he has come out here, that wasn't the first time I recorded with him,
Okay.
but I think that you know, over the years, I mean, he's a guy who's got 80, you know, what, like 70 years of playing music, and
Right.
he was schooled by John Coltrane, so I think he looked at me as like, yeah, you got a lot to learn, you know, and it was one of those things that my mom had been pushing us to do that for a long time. You know, she's like, you guys got to work together. You know, you're so much alike. You got to work together. And it was fun. I mean, like when we finally did get together, like I did learn, like, oh, we are a lot alike. Just when we talked about life stuff and everything, like
Wow.
I didn't realize I had so much in common with him. You know,
What's the biggest inspiration you've gotten from him, or words of wisdom you've gotten from him as a musician to musician?
I think the main thing is to keep practicing. You know, like when Archie when he's not playing, I mean, he still practices like 8 hours a day or something. I mean, he gets up, you know, he eats and then plays that sax. Like, you're always perfecting your craft. So, like for me, I try to produce stuff. So I try to play a lot of different instruments and not a master at any, you know. So I got to keep practicing. But rhyming, I'm pretty damn good at. But it's like it's always a new style. It's always a better way to say what you said. It's always a trickier way to put the words together, you know. So it's always a better way to tell a story. So for me, it's always like, well, you know, next story got to be better than the last. So every day I practice, you know, I work on it.
You know what's really dope about you as an MC? You know, as you know, you talk about your rhyming experience, is like when I listen to you, your delivery is a little unique in terms of what I'm used to hearing. Like you tend to do a lot of, I don't want to say just complete singing, but there's a lot of like melody happening within your rhyme pocket, right? And sometimes it comes in across of you kind of singing or chanting. But I noticed that you and you're also very you're not scared of like experimenting with different types of sounds, right?
Yeah.
Like, where does that inspiration come from? Like, are there like any MCs that you listened to back in the days that kind of inspired that approach to rhyming?
I think there's definitely some influences. You know what I mean? Slim Kid Trey from Far Side.
Mm.
He was doing that way before me, so I definitely can't say I started it. And then, you know, Mos Def has done it a bit. Lauryn Hill did it to a certain degree. Mine mainly came from, you know, I grew up in Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia, and then when I started doing shows, I used to like party at like 16 years old. I would go down to JMU, and that's how I met a lot of the guys in my band. And I would play songs with them. So I was playing with a lot of musicians that I was required to kind of make it melodic for the kids in the audience who didn't really understand hip hop. And so I would kind of do a singing style. And I mean, you can pinpoint the first time I did it. It's a song called Poetry Bum. My friend Pat, who I mentioned earlier, his old voicemail was this guitar riff. And I was like, I think I got a rap that will go with that. I was like, I kind of sing it, you know? And he was like, word, let's try it. And it became our biggest song with RPM, you know? And from there, I was like, oh, there's something like I can do a lot of different things with this, and allows me to take a style to a totally different degree. You know, I think for some hip hop listeners, they want straight ahead, and we have songs like that. But when I would like to branch out, sometimes I use it to kind of branch out and go wherever, you know, wherever the vine takes me.
I think your vocals tend to match the melody of the instrumentals a lot of times. Like it just kind of like flows.
Yeah, I found that it's hard for when people try to remix the songs. It's hard for them to just put my verse on any beat.
Right.
gotta figure out, well, what's the note that he's going? Like, what is he doing here? You know? So
Really?
yeah, it's an advantage and disadvantage at times. You know?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you if you're a casual listener, you might take it for granted, but the more you listen, you start to realize how dope and impactful it is. So I want to talk about the latest project that you guys put out, like, what is it, like in June, like just last month, entitled Big Tiny Planet. It's a 5-song EP, but they're definitely full songs. Every track is at least over 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And the Bandcamp description says that the project is a short adventure through time. Can you tell us how that adventure is supposed to translate to the listener as they experience the music?
Yeah, it's again, it's like a short film. You know what I mean? Narrated by me, directed by Damu. You know, and it's just I feel like it takes you through a course of emotions over what 25 minutes about, you know what I mean? It's just, and like, so I think again, I think it's a drive time. I call it a drive time album. It's one of my drive time albums. You gotta go to work, you wanna just get away from the world, you know what I mean, and be in your own world. That's the tiny planet, you know what I mean? And you just drive and go, you know what I mean? Don't take it too seriously, just whatever you're feeling, just let it mesh with the music and flow with it, you know.
Yeah, I get the vibe that this is a project that you could literally be like, you know, cleaning up your house on a Saturday, you know what I mean, vacuuming it, or, you know, maybe just if you're into like sketching or drawing, whatever you can, you know, whatever you're doing where you're maybe paying attention to something else, but you're still listening to music. It gives you that it gives a vibe that you might not be like fully cognizant of everything you're saying, but it still gives off a complete vibe.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different vibes in there. You know, it's that one has a lot of the singy song type styles in it. You know what I mean? And so I think it's a lot of stuff that you can get from it. Human Kindness probably is one of my favorite tracks on it. You know, we just released that single this week, and again, that's another one. Most of that song is improv. The only part that's not improv is the rap in the middle. You know,
Got it.
Singing, I was being emotional. I started singing some stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? I ain't even going to change it. I'm just going to leave it at that, you know? So.
How do you, I don't know if this question would make full sense to you, but I'll go for it. How do, like, what sets the tone for your improvs? Like, what creates that mindset that pushes into the improvs?
Well, it depends on the song. I think on that, sometimes I'll be writing a rhyme, and as I'm writing a rhyme and I'm working out the style I'm going to do, I'll start singing a melody, and when I start singing a melody, the words will just be there sometimes. You know? And so instead of just like overthinking the words, I'm just like, let me just say the words while they're in my head. And then if it makes sense to me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to base the rest of the song around these words I just said, because they're explaining exactly what I'm feeling. You know, and that's when I write the rest, but some of it will be improv. That one was based off of the key riff I was playing over here on my Wurlitzer, and the riff was just kind of, it was very soulful. I mean, Human Kindness, the title was taken from a Nina Simone song. And she's like, I think it's gonna rain again. I don't forget what the name of the song is, but in the song she says, Human Kindness is taking over, and I think it's gonna rain today, or you know, and I just loved the line. I was like, human kindness, and I want to, you know, just talk about, you know, being kind to each other.
Yeah,
as it sounds, you know what I mean? It's like let's talk about that, you know. So
yeah,
that's all.
I want to come back to that track too, but I'm glad that you kind of broke down a little bit about it. Now the project says featuring Damu the Fudgemunk, but I'm not sure that every track is actually like fully produced by Damu, and I think there's some other things specifically that you do. Can you kind of give details of your specific contributions to this project, Damu?
Well, yeah, I'm actually on every track.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But and that's why the featuring is on the cover versus just, you know, I guess specific to any tracks.
Mm.
It's, I guess it's probably even a bit further than say like an Iron Man or Cuban Links. You know, I'm pretty much on every, featured on every song, more like how jazz musicians do. You know.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, all of the music there, most of the ideas, they're all Raw Poetic's original compositions. He produced everything. And then he pretty much was like, okay, it's ready for you, you know. And then I listened. I said, okay, what can I add? You know, what type of musical arrangements? Okay, this needs some string arrangements. I need to beef up the drums here. So, you know, it was I mean, definitely a joint project, but also something that we want to credit to Raw Poetic as a solo artist, just to more so show, you know, his skill set, which is, you know, very broad. But yeah, I mean, it's fun, and I think just in general, there's a lot of music that we have in the works or things that we've done where you know, it may say produced by me, it may say produced by Raw Poetic or featuring, and yeah, we're very hands on. You know, it's definitely a 50-50 contribution. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk about the rest of the songs on the album, but just yeah, all the drum breaks, most of the drum programming or additional drum programming. And then I also did some of the arrangements and
Yeah.
some live instruments of my own, the segues and things, the interlude kind of pieces. That's all me.
Nice, nice. Speaking of interlude, like there's a sound that starts off the album. It's like the first 5 to 6 seconds on the first track.
Okay.
Sounds like it could be like an alarm clock or some type of siren. Like, what was the reasoning for starting with that sound?
But that was actually me manipulating the record. The thing is, it was a buzz, and just like a buzz tone, and I guess I heard it, and generally when people send me stuff to add things to or do cuts or hey, can you mix this, or you know, I sit and I listen to it, and then I just make a big sheet of notes, and okay, I need this kind of tone, I need this type of instrument, I'm gonna put these drums here, or do this cut. So pretty much I found a nice buzz tone that I could just cut up and just add some flavor in the same way that Raw Poetic likes to improv. I think is very important. Although I didn't want to go too heavy with the scratching here because I didn't want to make it too hip hop. When I do cuts, I do like to make them musical, but when it comes to what I do, generally it's because I'm, you know, sitting behind a beat machine or a you know, a computer or whatever it is to, you know, to get my ideas across, having something that people that actually can feel. I feel like scratching is extremely important in, you know, quote unquote hip hop music or music that uses turntables, you know, because or better yet, improv. You know, a lot of that has been, I guess, removed from hip hop. You know, the more technology has stepped in. So I look at the scratch like a guitar solo or a sax solo in jazz or a guitar solo in rock. So putting it on these records is kind of it's a requirement, and also a way that you know, when I'm dead and gone, people will be able to feel my presence. But musically, that idea was something that came to mind specifically for that track.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, that's just me manipulating the fader and just trying to emulate a horn or
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
It you know, the project has sort of like a cosmic sound to it, you know. And I noticed, like, when I thought about that introduction sound, like I was wondering if it had anything to do with the you know, the big planet theme and this theme of like the universe and stuff like that. But yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely something that you recognize, you know. You know, it's very short. It's like I said, it's like 5 seconds, the first 5 or 6 seconds.
Well, it's funny you bring that point up, and that's actually why I soloed it at the beginning, because I wasn't gonna, I didn't want to do, I guess, a traditional introduction to set up the album because it was, or the EP. But I felt like, okay, I do have this featured throughout the track, but solo, and it does set the album off with just like a note or a tone, and the texture itself does apply to the theme of the album. So
Right.
it's dope. It's dope that you picked up on that. But yes, that was all done by design.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I noticed that as you get it after you listen through to the project. So I want to talk about the first song on the EP. The song is actually titled Big Tiny Universe, while the project is called Big Tiny Planet.
Yeah.
And it opens up with some pretty dense lines of yours, Raw Poetic, where I wanted to ask you, like, what were you trying to convey with the first few lines, with the idea of, this sparked match evaporating into flames and falling towards the grass, with the idea of breathing life again and so forth? Like, why was it important for you to open the song with that concept of what's happening with the falling match?
It was kind of like lighting up a universe that you can't see. There's no light, And so once the match is sparked, it's like, oh, life is somewhere around here, it falls, and then it spreads. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I'm inviting you. It's called Big Tiny Universe, but the universe, of course, starts with nothing. But I'm inviting you to this planet, so it's like the match is kind of falling and creating the planet real quick, and it's like, now you're in this planet. I get on my psychedelic things. So it was a big metaphor of like, I'm gonna paint a picture of a person seeing a planet for the first time, but like I'm coming from space, you know what I mean, and seeing it, you know what I mean, and once you break the atmosphere, the plane, your ship sets on fire, and it's like you hit the ground, and you see, oh wow, it's a whole bunch of stuff all around me here, like it's already here, and
Yeah.
so like kind of inviting you to the album, like, yeah, you're coming into a tiny planet here,
Wow. I'm glad that you broke that down, man. Because like I said, the lyrics were dense. So I'm listening, and it gets to a place where I'm like, I can't even make out some of what you're saying, but I know it has a meaning, a greater meaning to it.
Right. But you felt it, and that's what I'm saying. It's like about to feel it. It's about to feel, and just it's a lot of Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and just being a science nerd and everything. I like to read all that kind of stuff. Ken, who was a short story writer that I read, and his stories are very, out there, and I just sometimes I'm like, all right, let me do a rhyme that can match what these guys are talking about, you know what I mean? But in our form, So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So Damu, like I said earlier, the music on the project gives off sort of like a cosmic experience in terms of the sound. Can you talk about how you were able to source the type of sounds that would have this type of effect on the project?
Well, actually I guess it's a 50-50 thing. So pretty much, Raw Poetic produced and composed all the music, or 75-80% of the music there was all of his compositions, and he's playing all the instruments. So a lot of it was just finding the right sounds. There are some samples, more so drums, and a few live scratches in there, but I guess the versions that I got from Raw Poetic, they were okay. There's strings, there's bass lines, there's synthesizers and things. Okay, how can I produce or accentuate those tones, to make them sound a bit more organic, or just kind of give them their color where they fit into this album, So then from there it was like, all right, I think I got a good space, a good recording environment for these things. Now I can go and add my things. So that's where I'm playing a lot of the electric pianos and the synthesizers and things. And at that point, the EP title's already been communicated. So I knew we weren't going to go too far, get too Star Trek with this. But given that we both have interest in the universe and galactics, galaxy and so forth, so it's a reoccurring theme in a lot of our music, or nature, and that kind of thing. I just wanted to source textures and things that really highlighted the songs, but more so highlighted the whole album, versus just like a collection of, because that's the thing, every song is so different from one another. The extra textures needed to be the glue to make it all make sense.
That's a good point, because I hear you on that. Like, every sound is different, but collectively they all work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cohesively they work, which I think is a dope thing. I think for you guys to even hear back as a listener, right? Because I feel like that is kind of what you were looking for too, like for it to, because it's supposed to, you know, be an adventure, like, you know, you're experiencing this. It definitely comes together cohesively. So those little parts that you put in to kind of tie everything together, I think they really worked out well in the end.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Just to go a bit further. So yeah, I mean, as far as tying each song together, you know, I may have listened to, okay, you know, this song is in this key. I kind of want things to be able to segue into another idea. So okay, now we need a piece to modulate, you know, to change the keys, or you know, either change the tempo. The next song is going to change, or it needs, you know, something rhythmically to take place to set up the next song. So yeah, that was, you know, a lot of those ideas just came from vibing with his original ideas, and yeah, I think just over the last couple of years, he's really developed as a producer, and you know, he's showed me a lot of things. You know, we've been trading a lot of secrets, so he can definitely tell you more about, you know, how he found and chose some of those combinations of instruments and things.
Yeah.
What's up?
And I always defer to Damu for the arrangement of the songs. I'll just give Damu the songs. I'm like, I think this is the album, you know. And then he's like, okay. He's like, and then I let him do his thing, and he gives it back. He's like, what do you think about this arrangement? Again, I get the movie back, and I'm like, hey, it's a good movie. I enjoy listening to that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Speaking of movie, like, I feel like this project, and I mean some of your other projects, but this project in specific sounds like it could be the soundtrack to like a sci-fi movie or something. Like, have y'all thought of like, or have y'all had any like conversations about seeing the music in that format for this project?
I mean, I would love to. I think, you know, the more exposure it gets, the more possibility it has to being that for somebody who's listening. I mean, a lot of these guys, like Seth Rogen and all those guys, they love underground hip hop. So if they stumble on it and they're like, this would be perfect for a movie, yeah, by all means, I would love to see it in there. I think we think very cinematically. My cousin Point Blizzy, Steve Knox, he does a lot of amazing art. He did the album cover.
Okay.
Crashing into the world, you know what I mean? And it's like he did that like 15 years ago. And I was writing this album. It was like, dude, that picture you drew way back in the day, I could use that for this album. You know what I mean? So I'm always thinking visually of how it would look. So I feel the same way. I would love to have this in some kind of science fiction movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely gives me that vibe as I listen to it. So I want to go back to Human Kindness, that track. I know you guys just released it on streaming platforms. It's a single now, it's a single on the streaming platforms. This is another track where you're singing some words, and I'm like, man, I wish I knew what he was saying, you know. Like, I get some of it, but I don't get all of it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna ask you again, and whatever you can remember, can you kind of like recite what the words are like in the I think you say something like "saw you once, go saw you," you know, like can you like explain what it is you're saying and like how it relates to the overall message of the song?
The overall message is kind of a connection with your spirit and your soul, you know what I mean? So like the rhyme is human kindness is overflowing, fell in love, but she'll never know it. You know, it's like talking about actually being in love with somebody, but you didn't tell them. So this is your chance to tell them, you know what I mean? That you love them, you know what I mean? And so it's just kind of making that connection to who you really are as opposed to what you show people, you know what I mean? And opening up, not being afraid to be vulnerable.
Okay.
You know? So I think that's why I chose to keep the improv lyrics for it.
Okay.
Because it's like, that's just honestly like what I sound like when I'm not, you know, putting too much thought behind it. You know what I mean? It's just what I am, you know? So, you know, I mean, if you played it, it's funny, I can hear myself. I'm like, oh, I said this. You know what I mean? I just haven't written it down yet. It's still like,
okay.
Yeah, like right now, like this is human kindness. This is just the verse of human kindness, you know?
Wow.
But the hook, none of it's written. You know what I mean? It was just
okay. Yeah. I mean, man, I don't know if I could play it right now, but it sounds like you're saying, and you could correct me on this because I want you to.
How about I send it to you? I'll listen to it and I'll transcribe and I'll send it to you. Like,
that's cool. That's cool. It sounds like you're saying "saw you once." Ghost.
Froze. That's what I say.
Oh,
Froze.
Okay, gross.
Froze. No, froze. I froze.
Yeah, then you said froze.
Yeah, saw you once. Froze.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like you're saying, I don't know if it sounds like you said ghost at first, but I heard froze the second time.
Yeah.
And then you said,
yeah,
then you said in my life, and like pausing time. There's no sun.
Shine.
Yeah. So it's a lot going on. But
in my lifetime, there's no sunshine. I mean, like, you know, even saying that's like warmth. Like, you know what I mean? Like growing up in a dysfunctional household, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's no sunshine, you know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of hard to open yourself up, you know what I mean? It's just
right.
Yeah.
Does your improv, like when you do your improv, is it happen like in the moment that you're recording, or is it you writing it down and then remembering to go back to it?
No, a lot of times, like, I mean, I was just talking to Damu about this the other day. Like, if I write a beat, you know what I mean? I got to sometimes get away from it for a few days because I need to feel the freshness of it again. You know what I mean? So I won't listen to it or anything. You know what I mean? Then I'll come back and I'll listen. And then when I'm starting to separate it and, you know, putting everything in its proper order, that's when the improv is like, I'll be singing along. I'm like, oh, shit, I got to, you know, I grab the mic and I'm like, I got to record this real quick. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm going to ask you, like, how do you know, like, oh, man, I got to go record this. Like, how do you know that moment of like, you know what, that's something I got to savor, or I got to keep.
I think a lot of that's just experience, those catchy melodies.
Yeah.
Those catchy melodies, they're in the atmosphere, but you don't always catch them. You know what I mean? Like when you overthink it, you keep trying to go back, like, what's that thing that's going to be like really sell this song, and you can't get it, and that's at the point you got to walk away, you know? So when I catch it, I just do it, you know? And that's the beauty of over the years building your own studio in your house, so you can just catch it when it's right there, you know?
Dope. Now, the third track has a interesting title. It's named after a type of natural disaster and also named after a type of fruit. Why'd you choose the title Tornado Apricot?
Tornado Apricot was it was beautiful chaos to me when I made the beat. So I chose that name before I even wrote the lyrics to the song. It just felt like beautiful chaos. Tornado Apricot was a song. That song was written. All our album was written in May, but that song was written back in like December or something of last year. Another album, but it just didn't fit with that album. And so it was kind of lingering. And when I was making Big Tiny Planet, I was like, that sounds like it should have been on this album. So I gave it to Damu thinking like, I wonder if he'll even like it. And I just wanted to see what he would do with it. And then once he got it, he turned it into something I was like, oh, wow, this song is awesome. Like, that was one of my favorite songs on the album. You know what I mean? So it fit. I'm glad it came on this album because I think it really works well with this one. But yeah, that was it. It was, to me, it sounded like beautiful chaos. So to make it so yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one to do. It's definitely on the top of my list as far as my picks. But yeah, when I saw the title and I heard the song, you know, and then I heard the original rhythms that he had, I said, you know what, I felt like, okay, tornado, storm, and you know, just even the way he described it, beautiful chaos. Is, you know, you think about the diaspora, so to speak, you know, the slave trade and so forth. It's like, you know, there's so much pain and dark history that's created a lot of beautiful things, you know. So when you listen to the rhythms in that, you know, I have the wind and I'm scratching the tornado and the sound effects in there. But then I was like, let me do something that represents the diaspora. So I added the drums and, like, you know, there's the funky drums in there. Then there's the more hand percussion and the Afro-Cuban things and the Western African sound. So yeah, I was trying to kind of tell my own story within that story.
Time travel element that you added to it, you know, like in the middle of it, that's where like it's full Damu's Tornado, and I'm sitting there listening to it like, how the hell did he do this, man? Because I feel the whole, like, you can feel the Caribbean sounds, and like it's just like, whoa, like we really went somewhere with this one, man. You know, so yeah, that's one of the songs. The feel of it just really gets me every time. Every time I listen to it, I feel like I hear something new in it. You know.
Yeah, I was thinking about being somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, or Bermuda Triangle, and just kind of like in the middle of a storm, and then just on tour visiting all the spirits that have just passed through.
Mm. Damu, how do you translate what you visualize into beats or into instrumentals?
Well, I guess at this point it's a habit. Generally, I don't know. I think it comes from listening to a lot of music and being a nerd. And as you can see, there's endless music around me. As far as things that I see and hear, I also do a lot of writing, and rhyming and stuff. I definitely don't do it like raw poetic, but I originally started as a writer, and then that evolved into making beats. So working with someone that's just got an imagination like raw poetic, it's it's actually it's really fun, because as I have listened to so much stuff, and just beyond hip hop, and grew up listening to progressive rock and fusion and jazz and just a little bit of everything. I have the opportunity to go so many different places. So it's like when I get just even a word, or I'll throw out a title of a song, it's like, it can sound like this. It can sound like one of our next albums is going to be called Horoscope of the Horrible. But it's going to be 2 words: horror, scope, and horrible. And this is just an idea that comes from just everything that's been going on in the world, the chaos and so forth, and then raw poetic being a Taurus. So coming up with that concept, now I've been building a soundscape, just to fit that. So just based on those words, I know that I need aggressive tones, dark tones. I'm going to go with more distortion, heavy guitars, bass, more cymbal oriented versus hi-hats and things, and crashing. So generally, a word or a vibe, just a few words, I can visualize how it's going to be, and that just touches me here, and I know where to go, or at least I know where to try to look.
Wow, man, lots more projects to come, huh?
Oh yeah, man, we've been having a blast through COVID. We've been having a blast.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
creativity.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about another track on the project. It's called "You Don't Know."
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Raw poetic, your verse details your character taking a walk or a stroll, observing and interacting with certain sceneries in nature.
Yeah.
Meaningfully is happening with your character as he's experiencing taking this walk in the song.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one about being just in tune with everything around you and your surroundings. I do like to go hiking. I like to be out in nature. I feel a lot more like myself when I do it. I don't do it enough. And that's kind of like, it's like almost like the whole thing at the end is like, you don't know what you're missing. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I think that's why it's such a happy vibe of the song. I almost felt like when I wrote it, I was back out there. You know what I mean? So that just helped me. Yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with that one. When I listen to that one, I feel good. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to make it sure everybody else felt that way. So I broke up the rhyme a lot so that, somebody who doesn't follow a lot of the fast, like, the underground raps where we get real tricky, I broke it up, and then I kind of bring you back into it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you want to trip with me? Okay, now let me show you exactly how we do it. You know what I mean? And so it kind of it's a nice little journey through that whole thing.
Yeah, the vibe of the song sounds like it just sounds very like it's like a relaxing walk, kind of just walking and observing nature. Yeah.
because people don't think that hip hop can do that. You know what I mean? But hip hop is poetry. Hip hop is very poetic, and poets are very nature based. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, we can do this too. Like you can be out in nature and listen to a hip hop song and get that vibe, like vibe with the trees and everything else. Like it doesn't always have to be concrete, you know. So it was just like, let's have fun with it. You know what I mean? Let's have a picnic here.
Dope. So I think we're almost towards the end. I thank y'all for staying with me.
Oh, good.
It's been great, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed. So the last track on the EP, in fact, before I go to this question, on that song, You Don't Know, you repeat a phrase in the hook where you say, "Oh, you don't know just how to fly."
Mm-hmm.
Does that phrase have anything to do with the How to Fly track on Moment of Change?
It's a callback. It's a callback because it's almost like saying like, yeah, this is a very spacey album. You know what I mean? But you don't know how to get where we're going unless we've been where we've been. It goes right back to How to Fly. You know what I mean? And that's why it's like people who know, like you, are like, is he taking me back to the drum? Maybe I need to listen to that. Like, yeah, make the connection. We still those same underground dudes. We still can drop those kind of tracks for you, but we can do this also. You know what I mean? So it was a callback.
Got it. And yeah, as I was gonna say, the last track on the EP is entitled Page One, which is probably one of my favorites on the project. What are you actually saying repeatedly in the hook? It sounds like you're saying, and you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Go for it.
You let your freedom delete your soul, or you let your freedom
delete your soul. You let your freedom delete. Yeah. You let your freedom delete your soul.
Delete your soul. I was like, all right, I got it correct. Yep. Like, can you just kind of clarify what that whole phrase is, like the message behind that phrase?
I think it's just saying like, yes, freedom is something we're all striving for. Freedom is something that is very important. You can also lose yourself in it, depending on what route you choose. So
right.
Kind of like haunting you no matter what you're doing. You got that in your head, like almost saying like, don't let your freedom delete your soul. But I'm just like, you let your, almost like a evil ghost being like, you let your freedom delete your soul. And so that's what it was about. But it's kind of a reminder of like, don't let your freedom delete your soul. You know, be a slave to something else. You know.
Right. Like, how would you sum up the overall message of that particular track?
I think that page one is like your first step to freedom. You know what I mean? Damu had the great idea of putting the pencil in there. You know what I mean? And you know, is again like first of all, being me is an out of body. That's how the rhyme starts. Like being myself is an out of body experience. You know what I mean? So once you connect to yourself, you kind of branch out from yourself. You know, and then you start writing from there. You know, follow your own narrative. I think that's the message.
Yeah, I think the track itself, like as you listen to it, I think it kind of starts out almost like a traditional. You hear like the drums. It starts out with like the kind of like, I don't want to say boom bap, but I get that kind of vibe when it starts off, and then it just switches up. But it still keeps that same energy. And I thought it was really dope that y'all ended the song, you know, the project with that song and just the vibe of it too. I think it's similar in the way you guys ended Moment of Change. Like it's kind of like upbeat to a degree, but with the different like layers of instruments and stuff. So yeah, man, like can you speak to like, you know, what inspired you to kind of close the project with this vibe, Damu?
Well, it was more so just the vibe of the music that, you know, I start more so in the, I guess, the emotional content versus the lyrical content. Sometimes I have to analyze both, but you know, when I got the collection of the music and I sat there and, you know, A and B, you know, went through my sequencing routine. I thought that just made that I couldn't see that anywhere else. And then by the time it was all actually produced, and it had the paper and the page turning sound effects and stuff, and then you pointed out the drums. That was probably, I mean, you don't know, it has a pretty hard drum beat behind it, but it was like that one. I had a lot of fun doing that because, or page one, I had a lot of fun doing that because I got to go and actually put some Damu drums in there. When I say Damu drums, I mean like go and load a floppy disk from like those drums. Like, so if you've listened to my music for a long, those drums were actually on the Wide Society album on a song called "Setting the Example." So the second drums that come in, I made that drum kit back in maybe 2005, 2006. So it was me going back, a long time to kind of revisit an idea and then, repurpose it. And when he originally sent me the music, I said, yeah, man, how about this? How about, because the groove is so, the music itself is speaking to me so much, but and I could go different directions because he already had some drums programmed, and I said, you know what, I can accentuate these. I know the right breaks to throw in there, and that also has some Latin percussion in there, and then it had just like this driving march.
Yeah.
And then towards the second verse, then it goes into like the more kind of smooth groove hip hop rhythm, and then it fades back into that. So I wanted to just create some curiosity, some anticipation. Oh, when are the drums coming back? Oh, they left, and then it was just a fun song. So same thing, ending the album on that, where it's like, man, the album's over, the record's done, but then page one, it's, it goes back, you go back to page one, play the record over.
Yeah.
Tarantino, Pulp Fiction type of arrangement.
Got it. Yeah. So it's like an indicator of like it's time to restart the project. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it was such a pleasure building with y'all today, man. I wanted to ask you all, I know you guys said you got more collabo projects coming, but just for your individual careers, like what else is in store?
Real quick, one point I forgot to, forgive me for this, but this, I think people will get a kick out of this. The the opera voice, you probably hear some opera singing in the back or some high pitched voices and stuff happening, like when the drums come in. That's a guy named Earl Davis.
Okay.
Singing background. So that was, as you can see, I had a lot of fun.
Dope. Yeah, man, that's what's up. Yeah, we'll let them figure out who Earl Davis is. They probably know though. That's what's up though. I actually wanted to ask you this before we go into your solo projects coming up. Like, if you guys had to sum up what you wanted people to take away from this EP, A Big Tiny Planet, like how would you, what would you want listeners to take away from the experience?
Limitless possibilities, man. When you go into music, there's limitless possibilities of what you can do, and there should be limitless possibilities of what you expect from yourself. And I think that's what I know we try to bring to the table. We do our thing naturally, but we don't put walls around what we do. We just go out and do it. And I think, I think that's why we work well together. Aside from being real good friends, But I think we both have that mind state of like, where can we take it? And that's how you get stuff like this. Keep pushing.
So, you want to add some thoughts to that, Damu?
He pretty much summed it up. It was, that was perfect.
Nice, man. So yeah, talk to me about like what people can expect from you guys individually.
In some form or fashion, we're always working together. I think my next solo project is Laminated Skies. And again, Damu helped me with that one too. We help each other all the time. So we got that. Damu.
Yeah, there's an album called Conversation Piece coming out officially September 3rd. Raw Poetics featured on that. That also features myself doing a couple vocals. It has Blue, Insight Innovates, Nitty Scott, and features KPM, the KPM Music Library, samples. I was granted access to their archive, and that was a lot of fun, and can't wait to get that out. And yeah, the raw poetic tracks on that record, I think, yeah, they're really good. Proud of those, and then from there, we actually have another joint album coming out in probably, I guess, October, November, called another space themed album called Space Beyond the Solar System. So that's so a lot of the records that I'm working on, that most of them they're joint records.
Yeah.
At least for the next year. So it's going to be a lot of raw poetic and Damu album.
Man, solar system is a big one. That's like a whole solar system.
Yeah, there's a 20 minute, there's a 22. I was looking at it today. I think it's probably going to be about 21, 22 minutes. There's a 22-minute song on there, the last song. Yeah. And then some of the songs are 12 minutes, 13 minutes. I mean, and to be honest, that was actually the record that kicked everything off. It's like we started making that, and there were a few things in between, but then that's when Uncle Archie heard that and said, "Okay, you all are ready." Yeah. and yeah, he's on this out. He's on that album also. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wow. Did he like give any like extra details on why he felt you guys were ready with that record?
I think he just heard the song. So it was like, okay. They know what they're doing, you know? Yeah.
Nice. Listen, man, I wish you all continued success. Man, I look towards that day when I see this music in some type of film format, because I feel like that's the direction y'all are going in, like with the space sounds and the sci-fi type sounds. But yeah, man, much continued success, man. Thank you for being gracious enough to do this interview. And I guess in last question, I would just say if you guys want to give your social media sites and websites where people can get connected with you for music, merchandise, or just any upcoming tours or whatever, as things are opening up, like just feel free to share.
Yeah, Raw Poetic go on all the social media sites, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I got a website too, rawpoetic.com. I'm updating it now, so you go there. It's a little all over the place, but I'm not a website designer. So, but it'll be ready soon.
Dope.
And as for me, just at Damu The Fudgemunk IG. Long time coming to get there, but that's where you can find me.
Hey, at least you somewhere, man. Like I there's people I can't find them anywhere. So I'll take one social media platform. Listen, brothers, thank y'all again. To all of our listeners who have been rocking with us, and also viewers, make sure y'all continue to check our website, outtheboxmedia.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Outthebox TV. Remember, you can go support us by purchasing merch at outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com. You can donate to us by going to paypal.me/outtheboxmedia, or just doing it through Cash App at hashtag outtheboxrep. Till our next time, remember the shows are not only on YouTube, they are available as a high quality audio podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Just search for Out the Box Talks. Till next Friday, everyone stay safe, stay healthy, stay focused, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Thank you. Peace. Thank you.